Good evening from around the world. Sit right down, enjoy yourself. Hopefully you have a nice warm drink. I recommend hot cocoa. It's yours truly, the exceptional one, Ken McClinton, coming to you live from Snowmageddon, better known as Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation, first through the Republican, and then the socialists. Speaking of socialists, tonight begins a week of discovery. A week in which I want to make certain that we understand what we're up against. You know, I've spent a lot of time talking about conservatism, capitalism, Christianity, constitutionalism. You can listen to my show on New Day Black and Red with my co-host, Dr. Michael Jones, and you can hear the vibe coming through. We've been on the air going on 6 years. February 28th of this year, 2016. We have not winced. We have not shirked. We have not been jostled to the left or to the right. And in fact, it amazes me that sometimes the right takes us for granted, the Exceptional Conservative Show, while the left is beginning to consider great honor. It's amazing, simply amazing. But I'm telling you tonight that this week we're going to focus on 2016 and whom we have to fight in order to reclaim our federally constitutional republic. Mary, my bouncers in the chat room. If you diss her, you diss me, you will be dismissed. Deborah's in there. Thank you. Love you. Glad to have you here. Mrs. Biggs. I love that bacon, baby. We're going to get some served up bacon tonight. It's a big night. It really is. Tonight we're going to talk about Bernie Sanders. And Mrs. Biggs is going to give me some bacon for all that porkiness. Bernie Sanders. It's all a themed show that it is. And the Cuban music, Cuban sandwich, music that you will find at Incompetech played. I want to thank them so much for all of their great work. And presenting some great royalty-free radio. Also want to thank the gentleman who makes certain that my family is warm, Buck. Yes, I'm going to give him kudos. I'm going to put it out here before we even get to the point where we normally get at this time of the program. In fact, I have put his information out on the net. There we go. Here we go. I'll just put it right in here. Listen, if you have a fireplace and you need good wood, I mean, not that crap wood that they wrap up and sell at the local hardware store. I mean, but some good solid wood. Hickory, cedar, pine. I mean, some good stuff. And I mean, at the break, I'm going to bring you up the size of the wood. The wood is just humongous, all right? And it fitted my fireplace so well. Thank you. Mrs. Biggs is bringing me some beloved bacon. We have enjoyed our Snowmageddon weekend. There's the bacon there, baby. This is a Muslim weekend right here. I love me some of this bacon. See, this is the stuff that Dr. Michael Jones can only dream about. That's some good bacon. That's that hardcore down south. You can still see the grease on top of the fat. That's the way bacon was supposed to be. Mrs. Biggs has been taking very good care of me this weekend, and I really love her for that. But going back to Buck Sound and Landscaping over in Capitol Heights, Maryland. You can call them at 301-335-9743. Yeah, this is a freebie here, man. This is a freebie. Thanks for the ton of wood at such a reasonable price that kept my home warm. Pepco and Washington Gas won't profit from me this month. They won't. Burning that fireplace from the time that the snow began all the way through to its end, going on a day. I have so much wood. And it's not, I normally when I order a quarter cord of wood, I know some of you all in urban America don't understand what I'm talking about, but normally when you order a quarter cord of wood, it's just like a small, slender. My boy brought me a huge amount of wood. Oh my God, I got wood out in the yard. I'm going to get another quarter cord of wood, simply because there's another snowstorm coming up this weekend for Washington, so we'll be watching that. But my God, Buck, forgive me, Buck, thank you, man, thank you. And the eggs were delicious too. He's just a overall great guy. Tonight our conversation, and I do believe that I have a responsibility to fight the good fight and to present the arguments as they are, how weak they are on the left and how strong they are on the right. But Bernie Sanders is beginning to make a reach. And I want to talk about Bernie Sanders. I want to talk about the apex of the age of W.E.B. Du Bois. This is going to be a magazine show tonight. Okay, it's not going to be the hard-hitting stuff that we've been over the past couple of weeks. This is going to be a... Dave Milner's popped into the chat roll of SHR Media Live. God bless you, sir. Glad to have you here. He is the unpleasant blind guy. But this is going to be I have to be an educationalist today, a teacher, If someone on my side of the aisle said that we wanted a revolution, I would be hauled away by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and held in captivity for a number of years. Bernie Sanders is calling for a revolution. And I'm just telling you right now, Bernie Sanders is the apex of the age of W.E.B. Du Bois. We'll listen to W.E.B. Du Bois himself so that you will know that I haven't been lying on him. We will hear about his son, and when we come back, we're going to hear about how Bernie Sanders has been set up to finally put the world against the principles of the Founding Fathers. D-Day is coming. We'll be right back with more of the best right after we pledge allegiance to the United States of America and a few other words of encouragement.
Buenas tardes, niños. This is Spanish with Señora Cabrera. Today we will learn how to say the Pledge of Allegiance in Spanish. In English, we say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, in Spanish we say, juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa, una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Muy bien. Practice your Pledge of Allegiance, and the more you practice, the faster you will memorize. I'll see you later.
Time for an unpleasant blind guy, conservative bite. Each time civilized people are attacked by the followers of Muhammad, politicians, pundits, and others rush to the news outlets to tell us all that it's not all Muslims. That the support among the followers of Islam for terrorism only amounts to about 10% of those who practice the ideology of Islam. This claim is always made, and it's worth checking. A good way to do that would be to compare the reaction of Mohammedans to the November 2015 jihadi attacks in Paris and their reaction to the Charlie Hebdo cartoons. After the Paris attacks, 6 Muslim students at a technical institute in Varese, Italy, walked out of their classroom during the minute of silence the school held in homage to those who died in the Paris attacks. Many might dismiss this as a very small number. But in France, where the attacks took place,
some French newspapers reported that on Thursday, the minute of silence that was called by the president on a day of national mourning, teachers reported to the press that some of their Muslim students refused to accept or refused to observe that moment of silence. Therefore, there is still a big problem in society, by no means the majority.
But is it only a small minority? In Chechnya, 800,000 Muslims protested the Muhammad cartoons, with similar events held in Iran and elsewhere. In Pakistan alone, the number reached 10,000 protesting the Charlie Hebdo cartoons. In Australia, 1,000 Muslims rallied against the Charlie Hebdo cartoons. In Kyrgyzstan, 1,000 Muslims rallied, saying, "I am not Charlie, I love my Prophet." Now let's contrast those numbers. In 2005, a group called the Free Muslims Coalition held a Free Muslims March Against Terror that drew about 25 people. In July of 2015, a rally in Ireland against the Islamic State got about 50 people. In June of 2013, at a progressive Muslim rally in Toronto, only about 25 people showed up. Now you may be saying, well Dave, these are countries where followers of Muhammad who want to protest acts of terror might be afraid for their safety in their communities. Alright, let's try a country where people do have gun rights. In August of 2013, there were only about 25 people at a rally against misperceptions that Islam was violent. That was held in Boston. Some still might be saying, well, that was a city in the northeastern United States. We know they're kind of strict on gun rights. Okay. In October 2014, a Houston, Texas rally against the Islamic State got 10 people. People, it's accepted wisdom that actions speak louder than words. In France, which has a population of about 5 million Muslims, only about 30 attended the rally against the Paris jihad attacks. If it is only about 10% of the followers of Islam who support terror, why will not the other 90% even show up for rallies against Islamic terror? If, as the Council on American Islamic Relations says, these attacks are a distortion of Islam, then that means that they are an insult to Islam. That means that they are an insult to the Prophet Muhammad. So why are our streets not clogged with Muslim protesters demanding action from their governments to help free their countries from terror? Knowing the numbers, we can only come to one conclusion. It is because instead of only about 10% of Islamists supporting terror, only about 10% or less oppose terror. If this were not the case, the numbers at the anti-terror rallies would be massive. People, the cause of Islamic terror is not the fact that other countries are in the Middle East drilling oil, they were invited in. It's not the fact that Muslims feel marginalized in civilized countries. It's because Islam inspires terror. The numbers show it. The actions of the followers of Muhammad prove it. People, while there is still time to save civilization, we must act in a non-violent way to remove the followers of Islam from all positions where they could do non-Muslims harm. They must assimilate to their host countries, or they must find somewhere else to live. Like all true Americans, I have a natural revulsion towards singling out a group of people for different treatment. But as the numbers show, most Islamists support singling out everyone else for different treatment, and that treatment is not good. Civilization can save itself if we will just act. This has been an unpleasant blind guy conservative fight.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the sound that you hear on Fridays when I am co-hosting with none other than the benevolent dictator, Rick Trader. You're back firmly here at the Exceptional Conservative Show, live from the nation's capital. We are certainly not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation, first to the Republican and then the Democrat. I want to thank my good friend Dave. Great job, sir. Great job. That's going to be a signature bite for me this year, Ken. Thanks again for playing it. No problem, sir. Not whatsoever. There has been great fancy amongst us, this concept that somehow the Department of Justice is going to turn its back on prosecuting one of the great treasonists of our time. I know. Maybe I've gone a little too far. Maybe I'm hyperbolic here. Maybe I'm hyperbolic here. I'm being boisterous and illuminating in a defiantly, decisively malicious way. Yeah, say what you want to say, but the bottom line is Hillary Clinton has broken the law. This is the corruption that will cost her the election. Fox News.
Fox News alert to bring you right now. Sources telling Fox News that at least one of Hillary Clinton's emails contained intelligence about human spying, the information falling into what officials consider the most sensitive category of intelligence. Our chief intelligence correspondent, Catherine Herridge, has more live from Washington. Catherine, put this in perspective for us.
Well, Heather, thank you and good afternoon. As we've been able to confirm, at least one of the Clinton emails contained extremely sensitive intelligence identified as HCS-O, which is the code used for the reporting of human intelligence sources engaged in ongoing operations. This is the most sensitive category because of the jeopardy to the source, and this comes from two individuals not authorized to speak on the record about the intelligence. These operations are used to protect what are described as exceptionally fragile and unique intelligence community clandestine human intelligence operations and methods that are not meant for public disclosure outside the agency running the operation under any circumstances. So this is information that should never be in unclassified channels, such as an unsecure personal server. A special operations veteran who has dealt with highly classified operations and special access programs over his career says a disclosure like this is a very serious matter.
So, I mean, there is a cause and effect between a disclosure of such sensitive material and the impact both on national security for the United States, but impact on at the other end of that spectrum on particular sources.
What we don't know is the impact on the source and the intelligence that was being reported, or the findings of a damage assessment, which would be required by the agency that controlled the source in a case like this, Heather. But just to emphasize, this is the kind of information that is really among the sensitive programs, the most sensitive, because it involves individuals who are on the ground taking risks to gather information for the U.S. government.
And Catherine, do we know anything about the nationality of this source?
No, I don't have anything beyond what I was able to confirm, but that this is the coding, and this is the coding that's reserved for operations that are designed to protect human intelligence sources who are involved in ongoing operations on the ground.
Well, Catherine, you've done a heck of a job of breaking so much news on that. Catherine Herridge, thank you so much from Washington today.
Catherine Herridge has done a wonderful job for Fox News breaking the stories on email and other military and intelligence-related issues regarding the Obama administration. But I want to play back for you on this cut Dan McGuire, Dan McGuire makes it crystal clear that we have an issue that is not quickly fixed in a political sense.
Very serious matter.
Dan McGuire.
So, I mean, there is a cause and effect between a disclosure of such sensitive material and the impact both on national security for the United States, but impact on at the other end of that spectrum on particular sources.
What we don't know is the...
Ladies and gentlemen, what he's saying is, and let me not conducively saying that I am the equal of someone in the intelligence sphere, but let me just say this. What he's saying is, as damaging as it was for her to put that information out to the general public on her server, sitting in someone's bathroom in Denver, imagine that now. And you're going to vote this woman in as president. This woman is going to get your vote. She had a server as Secretary of State in someone's bathroom. And this is the kind of person that you want to put millions of dollars behind and vote. Tells me your intellect. But as damaging as it is for her personally and professionally and electorally, because once the FBI knocks down the hammer on this one, on this investigation, she's going to jail. There is no... And there's probably a grand jury already meeting on this, but the bottom line is she will be going to jail. The Daniel Petraeus situation is... That's the guy who was jaywalking drunkenly last night in your neighborhood, okay? That is the comparison to what she's done with the most sensitive of all. I mean, information that if it were out there, there would be people in ISIS smiling. There would be people in Russia smiling. There would be people in China smiling. There would be mafia people smiling. You don't put sensitive human information out there. Human intelligence. The part that most importantly is spoken to is the simple fact that her having that information on her server, if it has been downloaded and hacked, and it has been hacked, people have said it has been hacked. My golly, the person who was giving up that kind of information in secrecy to a CIA agent or to an FBI agent or to a member of the State Department or a member of the military under anonymity, hoping and praying that no one around them would even conceive that it's them giving up that information. As soon as that name dropped, that person was dead. What she's done has not only been treasonous to us, a nation, under the rule of law, but it may have led to the deaths of many people beyond Ambassador Stevens, Tyrone Woods, and the others in Benghazi. Michael Bloomberg, former mayor, independent mayor of New York, Mr. Billionaire himself, has decided, you know what, I'm going to get involved. I'm not liking what I see here. And my fellow billionaire Donald Trump, I'm not liking it. Not one iota. So I want to get into this particular race. The situation is, and people on the ground know, especially in Washington, D.C., that the days are numbered for Hillary Clinton. They are. Eventually, someone's going to drop the hammer. She's going to be brought up on charges. The Department of Justice, under the Obama administration, is going to be in such a scenario and situation that they will not be able to logistically and with good faith hold back those charges against her. We're talking, they've numbered the charges already over 200. and you're looking at least 2 to 5 years apiece. This woman would be in jail forever. Bill would be a single man. Please hide your children. So what has that done? It has opened the door for Bernie Sanders to walk in. Now, Michael Bloomberg, they say, is going to run for office. Doesn't have enough name recognition. And his pro-gun control opinion is definitely going to separate him from the boys and the men. So that leads maybe one person who was once a Cherokee Indian, or at least she said she was, or something of that nature. Maybe she'll get in the race from Massachusetts, but literally that leaves only one. And this one is calling for a revolution.
This campaign is not about Bernie Sanders. It is not about Hillary Clinton. It is not about anybody else. It is about you. It is about putting together a grassroots movement of millions and millions of people who stand together and make it clear that we need fundamental changes in the economics and politics of this country so the government works for all of us and not a handful of wealthy campaign contributors. That in order to win this election, it goes without saying that we need a strong grassroots movement, an unprecedented grassroots movement. But let me say this to you also, and this is something that no other candidate will tell you, and that is that nobody in the White House, no matter how good he or she may be, can address the major issues facing working families and the middle class without an active, politically conscious grassroots movement. And the reason for that is not complicated. It is that the big money interests, Wall Street, corporate America, all of these guys have so much power that no president can defeat them unless there is an organized grassroots movement making them an offer they can't refuse. And that is what this campaign is about. What this campaign is about is creating a political revolution in America. A revolution which takes on the greed of Wall Street and corporate America. A revolution which takes on the reality that the Republican Party is essentially owned by big money interests, and too many Democrats are owned by big money interests.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bernie Sanders wants you to know that he wants to do a political revolution. He wants to change America from what it is today to what it should be. A nation under gov, indivisible, with liberty and social justice for all. What he doesn't understand, that America's first political revolution started back in 1775. It was a political revolution against the status quo British king in Parliament. The first political revolution established the United States of America. Bernie Sanders, now if I said this, I would be in jail tonight. My wife would be weeping and moaning on my absence. But if I said this tonight, that I was standing up to revolt against the United States of America, surely you would never hear my show again. You would never hear from the Exceptional One. In fact, I wouldn't even have a perp walk as far down as they would put me. But Bernie Sanders is not afraid in the least bit as to why he wants to do his revolution and who he's going to use to do that revolution, which includes using the grassroots, which is another name for brown shirts, to disarm Lady Liberty, to take away your rights and exchange it for faith in the security of G-O-V. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching right before your eyes everything your grandparents told you was going to happen. And it's becoming very, very scary. We'll be right back with more of the best of the Exceptional Conservative Show. And at 10 p.m., yes, Lonnie Poindexter, the Lion Chaser himself from AFA, Urban Family Talk, will be with us. We'll be right back. What do you have to say, Infuse?
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of Infuse Restaurant. And today I'm going to walk you through some of the meals that we prepare here. We're making a pizza. We use French Italian sausage that they cook here and slice it up. Our pizza dough is in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and ingredient. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and the Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs as well as some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia and grits, our fish and grits on the menu. And our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused heat burger. So we kick the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80/20 USDA ground chuck ham patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers, and we're going to grill it to perfection. After I flip the burger, we add the sauce and let it cook on into the meat just a little bit. We're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger to spice it up a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but as soon as I dig myself out, I want myself an infused burger. Okay? I really do.
Hi, my name is Christopher.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. I really do. If I could just get out for the weekend, I would love to take my wife this weekend to Infused Restaurant. One of the best restaurants in Washington, D.C., 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748. That's 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748. 301-449-9000. 301-449-9000. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I know you're worn out for shoveling. I'm only half done with the shoveling on my property in Washington, D.C. A large stately home that we have. A mansion even. No, just kidding. Not kidding. But ladies and gentlemen, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work indeed. After you've done a hard... In fact, before you get started trying to shovel all 2 feet of snow away from your home with the threat for the D.C. government, the Gestapo is going to give you a $25 fine for not moving your snow. Go on over 6339 Allentown Road, get yourself some breakfast, then come back, move all the snow, and then go back for lunch. That I recommend highly.
Right swipe. It's gonna be a right swipe. This man has shaped his chest hair into a heart. Oh. You stole mine. Right swipe.
Right swipe. Right swipe. That kind of looks like my sister. It does. But I know she's not.
He's cuddling a kitten. Oh my god, I want to eat their faces.
She's hot.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh.
That's a lollipop. Oh, that is not a lollipop. Left swipe.
Left swipe.
Look at you with your shirt off, flexing. You're buff but you puff, hashtag perplexing. Yeah, you worked out, you're in shape, okay. I like the 6-pack abs, not the 6-packs a day.
Came across a photo of this green-eyed hottie, home nine, pretty face, tight waist, nice body. But I just couldn't overlook one small fact.
She smokes like an old man at a racetrack.
This must be some kind of joke. If you think you're my type, and I'm not type. If you're good and it's not a smoke, I just left right, bye-bye. I just left right.
Left swipe that.
You gotta swipe it left.
Yeah.
You gotta swipe it left.
Left swipe that.
You gotta swipe it left. This is stuff I don't like, so I gotta
Left swipe that.
Mr. World Traveler, trips look expensive. Sitting on a mountaintop looking all pensive. I was about to ask, how's the air up there? But based on this pic, I guess you don't really care.
Lots of chicks in the pic, not sure which one's you. Them cigarettes are taking y'all from 10s to 2s. And one thing's true about your whole crew, none of you cigarella's gonna be my boo.
Smoking with a tiger?
Let's swipe that.
While you're on a hang glider?
Let's swipe that. Smoking while acting healthy. Let's swipe that.
Smoking all stealthy?
Let's swipe that. Smoking with a duck face. Let's swipe that.
At a monster truck race?
Let's swipe that. Smoking at the prom. Let's swipe that.
Even in a photo bomb?
He don't care. Let's swipe that.
You gotta swipe it left.
Yeah.
You gotta swipe it
Let's
left.
swipe that.
You gotta swipe it left. This is stuff I don't like, so I gotta
Let's swipe that.
You gotta swipe it left.
Yeah.
Hashtag. I'll never remember you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. You are listening to the best, most influential urban conservative show in the world. It really is. Hands down, there's no competition there. And well, there is one. Dr. Michael Jones, his show Underground Professor, yeah, you know. He's a competitor, but being the sycophant sidekick that I am, I'm not concerned. Dave Miller wanted to know if I am a snow yeti for Infuse. Yes, I will. Tomorrow I will be. My poor wife. She's had to deal with me all weekend in this particular crib. It's amazing. You know, really. And this is true about women. You know, maybe Mary will tell me. But after the first year of marriage in a house, there is not enough room to avoid your husband. Your husband will be right around you when you least want him to be. Always cuddling up and all that. Yeah. Mrs. Biggs, I loved this weekend. I really enjoyed it. We got to do this more often. In fact, I think this weekend we might do it again because there's another snowstorm coming our way. Who knows? And then we're entrusted with the belligerent, bellicose, bureaucrats of Washington, D.C. to handle the operation of removing the snow. Now, get this straight. D.C. government will open on time tomorrow. D.C. government will open on time. Yet their trucks are still being stuck in removing the snow off the streets. They're stuck. Literally on my street the other night, people came out to undig a D.C. government truck that has got stuck trying to remove the snow. And what happens is, and this is really, I love it, what happens is people move the snow thinking that they've done themselves great joy. And the problem is when you remove the snow and you push it in the middle of the street, you give power to D.C. government trucks to come by and push the snow back up on. So you really didn't do any work, and you created more work for yourself. So I decided over the past 2 days I was going to allow the person that put it there to actually remove it. So I'm allowing God to melt the snow. Now D.C. government has a problem with that. If you can get through my street, see, and this is the thing. You're actually going to come down my street where for 3 days there hasn't been but one truck, and that truck got stuck. And then you have the audacity to put a ticket on my door? That tells me everything I need to know about who the political leader is, who doesn't mind opening the D.C. government knowing that the metro trains are only 7/9 in operation. That means that literally less than 80% of the trains and tracks will be operational tomorrow. And in addition to that, fewer than 22 bus routes will be operational tomorrow because they can't get through the neighborhoods. Only socialists could create a problem like this that conservatives would understand in the District of Columbia. First and foremost, with all the money that you all tax people with, you should be able to buy equipment for such a time as this, and have better planning for such a time as this. And then secondly, if you know for a fact that it's better if people don't bar. I know you're talking about you lost $250 million of revenue because people are not downtown and not being taxed. And think of it as a tax-free holiday. Give people another day, get themselves together, and then come down. That's the way I would operate. I really would. Dave says sweeping off steps helps. I just wish if they're going to give somebody a ticket, you sweep the step off on your way up. If you're going to do it, do that. Clean off the street and the sidewalk and my stairwell. Come on up and then give me my ticket. I consider it was a well-paid work. It really was. The other thing I want to say here is, in my day when it snowed, you would not find young people sitting around watching TV. They would be up with snow shovels or brooms or whatever, and they would be knocking on your door relentlessly, asking for permission to clear off your snow. I think we got our door knocked on one time in the past 5 days. One time. Just saying. Where the kids at? Where the kids at? Apparently, the New York style or values that Senator Ted Cruz is so valiantly against, it's becoming predominant in our conversations of today. Just want to let you know that I received a note from Ralph J. Chinham's. Apparently, New York City will start allowing public urination. Why? Because blacks and minorities have been fined for public urination. So why not everyone? Just I'm gonna tell you. If that's the America you want, have at it. I will join Whoopi Goldberg wherever she goes. If you're going, this is just too easy tonight, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm talking about, Dave. Get the money, and then have some fun. African Americans are being told by the media that they will not be leaving in droves for Bernie Sanders. When Democrats cannot tell you the difference between socialism and the Democrat Party, what bridge or gate is there that can be stopped or blockaded so that Democrats don't take that leap? I want to tell you about a Democrat that has taken that leap. A prominent South Carolina Democrat has dropped his endorsement of Hillary Clinton to back, and I'm going to put this in the chat roll because I always like the chat roll to see and to know exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. A Democrat from South Carolina has dropped his endorsement of Hillary Clinton and is backing Bernie Sanders. The lawyer for the family of Walter L. Scott, who was fatally shot by a police officer in South Carolina, is withdrawing his support from Hillary Clinton and endorsing Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont on Monday afternoon. The lawyer, State Representative Justin T. Bamberg. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. South Carolina, all I could think about, Justin T. Okay. Send the letters. Justin T. Bamberg of South Carolina said he is switching sides because he believes Mrs. Clinton embodies establishment politics, while Mr. Sanders offers a bolder platform that will improve the lives of people in the South and across the country. I want you all to know, without a shadow of a doubt, that there are people who are buying into the Bernie Sanders get everything free off the backs of the wealthy platform. I mean, Social Security, free. Medicare, free. College education, free. Jobs, guaranteed. Healthcare, it's yours. Birth control, paid for. I mean, to the point where literally you are born with the copper spoon of government, knowing that it will rust in time, but nevertheless, they will force it into your mouth. And how do they give you that spoon? By taking the silver and the gold away from everyone else. You know, the Bible says that there is no middle class. You're either rich or poor. I believe that there's no middle class. You're either rich or poor. Even rich people are poor because they're lacking something, and even poor people are rich because they have been given something. But that type of mindset isn't in the community in which I live. In fact, the community in which I live had to be told at one point that communism and socialism are to your detriment, and you need to work towards independence. And in fact, the message of independence was taken with great offense. They have decided that, my goodness, I believe that I am born in a world that owes me at birth. You see, God did me wrong by placing me here. And thus, by placing me here, the world owes me something. Not that I've been given something by God in order to grow and to give, and as I give, I receive. No. I am born in a state and condition of complete oppression, even in a free land. And I am due something. Now, you see, there were those who felt they were due something when slavery ended in the United States. That's why General Order Number 3 was read to them. General Order Number 3 in Texas read, "The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free." This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts, and they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. There was no welfare system after slavery. Reconstruction was built upon the framework of individuals seeking in harmony to do well. And maybe the world is skewed against you, but by golly, is that enough for you not to create your own, not to produce, not to pursue what God's given you? Well, apparently for some it is. You see, some have been offended with a philosophy such as the one that I promote. I want to play for you Booker T. Washington. And when we come back from the break, we'll be talking with Lonnie Poindexter about current events of the day. But we will also, in the last quarter of the show, listen to W.E.B. Dubois. We'll listen to him a portion today, half portion today, and then tomorrow we will be listening a half portion as well. Because I want you to understand that in our culture, we have to defeat the mindset that someone owes you something, and that government is the vessel by which it will be, the vessel by which you receive it. That it will be taken from those that have and given to those that don't have. And the measure of thought should be this: who will have the power to discern between the two?
The Atlanta Compromise Speech by Booker T. Washington. Mr. President, and gentlemen of the Board of Directors and citizens, 1/3 of the population of the South is of the Negro race. No enterprise seeking the material, civil, or moral welfare of this section can disregard this element of our population and reach the highest success. I but convey to you, Mr. President and Directors, the sentiment of the masses of my race when I say that in no way have the value and manhood of the American Negro been more fittingly and generously recognized than by the managers of this magnificent exposition at every stage of its progress. It is a recognition that will do more to cement the friendship of the two races than any occurrence since the dawn of our freedom. Not only this, but the opportunity here afforded will awaken among us a new era of industrial progress. Ignorant and inexperienced, it is not strange that in the first years of our new life we began at the top instead of at the bottom. That a seat in Congress or the state legislature was more sought than real estate or industrial skill. That the political convention or stump speaking had more attractions than starting a dairy farm or truck garden. A ship lost at sea for many days suddenly sighted a friendly vessel. From the mast of the unfortunate vessel was seen a signal: "Water, water, we die of thirst." The answer from the friendly vessel at once came back: "Cast down your bucket where you are." A second time the signal, "Water, water, send us water," ran up from the distressed vessel, and was answered, "Cast down your bucket where you are." And a third and fourth signal for water was answered, "Cast down your bucket where you are." The captain of the distressed vessel, at last heeding the injunction, cast down his bucket, and it came up full of fresh, sparkling water from the mouth of the Amazon River. To those of my race who depend on bettering their condition in a foreign land, or who underestimate the importance of cultivating friendly relations with the southern white man who is their next-door neighbor, I would say, cast down your bucket where you are. Cast it down in making friends, in every manly way, of the people of all races by whom we are surrounded. Cast it down in agriculture, mechanics, in commerce, in domestic service, and in the professions. And in this connection it is well to bear in mind that whatever other sins the South may be called to bear, when it comes to business, pure and simple, it is in the South that the Negro is given a man's chance in the commercial world. And in nothing is this exposition more eloquent than in emphasizing this chance. Our greatest danger is that in the great leap from slavery to freedom, we may overlook the fact that the masses of us are to live by the productions of our hands, and fail to keep in mind that we shall prosper in proportion as we learn to dignify and glorify common labor, and put brains and skill into the common occupations of life, shall prosper in proportion as we learn to draw the line between the superficial and the substantial, the ornamental gewgaws of life and the useful. No race can prosper till it learns that there is as much dignity in tilling a field as in writing a poem. It is at the bottom of life we must begin, and not at the top. Nor should we permit our grievances to overshadow our opportunities. To those of the white race who look to the incoming of those of foreign birth and strange tongue and habits for the prosperity of the South, were I permitted, I would repeat what I say to my own race. Cast down your bucket where you are. Cast it down among the 8 millions of Negroes whose habits you know, whose fidelity and love you have tested in days when to have proved treacherous meant the ruin of your firesides. Cast down your bucket among these people who have, without strikes and labor wars, tilled your fields, cleared your forests, builded your railroads and cities, and brought forth treasures from the bowels of the earth, and helped make possible this magnificent representation of the progress of the South. Casting down your bucket among my people, helping and encouraging them as you are doing on these grounds, and to education of head, hand, and heart, you will find that they will buy your surplus land, make blossom the waste places in your fields, and run your factories. While doing this, you can be sure in the future, as in the past, that you and your families will be surrounded by the most patient, faithful, law-abiding, and unresentful people that the world has seen. As we have proved our loyalty to you in the past, in nursing your children, watching by the sickbed of your mothers and fathers, and often following them with tear-dimmed eyes to their graves, so in the future, in our humble way, we shall stand by you with the devotion that no foreigner can approach, ready to lay down our lives, if need be, in defense of yours, interlacing our industrial, commercial, civil, and religious life with yours, in a way that shall make the interests of both races one. In all things that are purely social, we can be as separate as the fingers, yet one as the hand, in all things essential to mutual progress. There is no defense or security for any of us, except in the highest intelligence and development of all. If anywhere there are efforts tending to curtail the fullest growth of the Negro, let these efforts be turned into stimulating, encouraging, and making him the most useful and intelligent citizen. Effort or means so invested will pay 1,000% interest. These efforts will be twice blessed, blessing him that gives and him that takes. There is no escape through law of man or God from the inevitable. The laws of changeless justice bind oppressor with oppressed, and close as sin and suffering joined, we march to fate abreast. Nearly 16 millions of hands will aid you in pulling the load upward, or they will pull against you the load downward. We shall constitute 1/3 or more of the ignorance and crime of the South, or 1/3 of its intelligence and progress. We shall contribute 1/3 to the business and industrial prosperity of the South, or we shall prove a veritable body of death, stagnating, depressing, retarding every effort to advance the body politic. Gentlemen of the exposition, as we present to you our humble effort at an exhibition of our progress, you must not expect overmuch. starting 30 years ago with ownership here and there and a few quilts and pumpkins and chickens, gathered from miscellaneous sources. Remember the path that has led from these to the inventions and production of agricultural implements, buggies, steam engines, newspapers, books, statuary, carving, paintings, the management of drugstores and banks, has not been trodden without contact with thorns and thistles. While we take pride in what we exhibit as a result of our independent efforts, we do not for a moment forget that our part in this exhibition would fall far short of your expectations, but for the constant help that has come to our educational life, not only from the southern states, but especially from northern philanthropists, who have made their gifts a constant stream of blessing and encouragement. The wisest among my race understand that the agitation of questions of social equality is the extremest folly, and that progress in the enjoyment of all the privileges that will come to us must be the result of severe and constant struggle rather than of artificial forcing. No race that has anything to contribute to the markets of the world is long in any degree ostracized. It is important and right that all privileges of the law be ours, but it is vastly more important that we be prepared for the exercise of these privileges. The opportunity to earn $1 in a factory just now is worth infinitely more than the opportunity to spend $1 in an opera house. In conclusion, may I repeat that nothing in 30 years has given us more hope and encouragement and drawn us so near to you of the white race as this opportunity offered by the exposition, and here bending, as it were, over the altar that represents the results of the struggles of your race and mine, both starting practically empty-handed 3 decades ago, I pledge that in your effort to work out the great and intricate problem which God has laid at the doors of the South, you shall have at all times the patient, sympathetic help of my race. Only let this be constantly in mind, that while from representations in these buildings of the product of field, of forest, of mine, of factory, letters and art, much good will come, yet far above and beyond material benefits will be that higher good that, let us pray God, will come in a blotting out of sectional differences and racial animosities and suspicions, in a determination to administer absolute justice, in a willing obedience among all classes to the mandates of law. This, coupled with our material prosperity, will bring into our beloved South a new heaven and a new earth.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation. First to the Republican and then the Socialists. I'm yours truly, Ken McClinton. So glad to have in the chat roll this particular evening some of my amazingly great friends. Mary the Bouncer, of course. If you diss her, you diss me, you will be dismissed. Whoop, no problem there. Deborah, we love you. Glad to have you here. And Dave Milner, the unpleasant blind guy. My good friend. Thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate your kindness and support. Mrs. Biggs is watching from her huge lair where she was hoping her husband would go to work tomorrow. Too much snow. You gotta move that snow, man. Love my wife. Thank you for the bacon, baby. That was some good eating. Ladies and gentlemen, I also want to thank Rebooting Liberty, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, and all who are carrying this particular my bacon bro. You know what I'm saying? Bacon bro. Teddy Roosevelt. Yeah, alright. I want to thank all y'all for carrying this particular program around the world. That bacon is so good. Oh, it's so good. Wow. I wish I had a bacon sponsor. If I had a bacon sponsor, boy, that would just be the diggity. Man, is there a bacon sponsor out there? I love me some bacon, man. It is the perfect white meat. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what we do at this particular time of the show. We find our right hand, we put it over our heart, and we pledge allegiance to the United States of America. I know you won't have a problem. And don't use your left hand. We'll be right back. Right after this. Pledge allegiance, people.
Buenas tardes, niños. This is Spanish with Señora Cabrera. Today we will learn how to say the Pledge of Allegiance in Spanish. In English, we say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, in Spanish we say, juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Muy bien. Practice your Pledge of Allegiance, and the more you practice, the faster you will memorize. I'll see you later.
And I will see you now. We are about to contact our beloved friend and just general partner in spreading the good news of Christianity.
Texas students pledging allegiance to the Mexican flag and singing the Mexican national anthem. A student in the Valley says that...
We can't have that. Oh. Okay, that was I am not going to take a hit on that. That was a production error on my point. Dan Butcher's in the room, people. Dan the Man Butcher is in here. And he has done a wonderful job. In fact, let me put the SHR shot in there. SHR media shot. I tell you, what he's done in terms of putting together that wonderful website now. It's a splendiferous website. There you go. That's what you get when you immediately go to the website. Hopefully it has my beautiful pic in there. SACHIZ Radio. SACHIZ.blogspot.com. Beautiful site. Definitely go there. Bookmark it. And enjoy indeed. Wonderful, great group of people who spread the good news. One of them happens to be none other than my very good friend Lonnie Poindexter. And let me call the Lonster. Calling Lonnie right now. Okay, the most handsome man in radio. And that's including me, so you know what I'm saying? Apparently, the beautiful Mary Brockman loves him. I'm jealous, okay? We're calling Lonnie Poindexter. Hello! Lonnie Poindexter of Urban Family Talk, LIONCHASER's radio show, great host, and the most handsome man on radio. It's a great pleasure to have you on the air tonight. Oh, man. Listen, apparently, we're getting some bad news here in Washington, D.C. There are black people in South Carolina that are dropping their endorsement of Hillary Clinton and running to Bernie Sanders.
Now, I would say that if you're feeling the burn, there's a clinic you can go to get that taken care of.
That's a great clinic. Penicillin taken here.
Yes. As it relates to Bernie Sanders, I don't know what you can take once you get that affliction. But you know, think about this, Kenneth. For them to do that, that means that Hillary must really, really stink to them as a choice for candidate, because they refuse to look at Republican candidates, so they're willing to go socialist.
Wow. Now, this is not the first time that African Americans have touched the third rail of politics called socialism and communism. In fact, since virtually the 1930s, W.E.B. Dubois and his ilk have been working to manufacture colleges and manufacture activists and organizers who would endow the dreams of our children with the thoughts and the fancies of communism and socialism. Are we just virtually, inheriting the Bernie Sanders? Is it easier now for people?
You know, I think that we're dealing with a situation where we've got folks that are just so dumbed down that they're not understanding the core issues that affect our community, that they're willing to let their tribalism and their unforgiveness drive them to voting for candidates that couldn't possibly have their best interests. I mean, I guess does not anybody pick up a history book to understand as it relates to socialism and the black experience? Things do not go well. I mean, ask black Cubans how things are going for them there in Cuba with socialism. I mean, anywhere in the world where socialism is deployed, we don't fare well. We don't fare well at all.
Exactly. There is also the concern here that African Americans will be jumping off the Democrat subway train and crossing the platform to the Republican train behind Donald Trump. Are you hearing that?
Yes. Yes, I am hearing that. And during my time in California over the holidays, I heard more than one family member indicating their father voting for Donald Trump. Now, on the surface, I would say that's a good thing, because it means at least they're willing to consider someone in the opposing camp, that they're disenchanted with the choices within their own camp. Hillary's just not a likable person to begin with. She's got questionable character, and I talk about it all the time. But she's Teflon because she's a Clinton. I guess if her name was Bill Cosby, maybe they would get rid of the wall, but the other side of this, you and I have talked about this as well. Trump resonates because those in the populace who haven't done all of their homework, but are really just disenchanted with the political structure as it is, want to throw all the bums out. So he represents an anti-politician. Now, you and I both know that he's played both sides of the fence so much that, I'm not going to say this. This is a family show.
Listen, Donald Trump has been on more sides than the prostitute on K Street. So
I'll let you say it.
So I understand exactly. But Mary Brockman in our chat roll is saying that she can't vote for Trump. I know I can't vote for Trump. I just don't feel it. Is there any hope after the squabble that started about 2 weeks back between Cruz and Rubio and the Donald?
Well, I'm noticing that Cruz continues to trend, and Rubio is still in the hunt. And speaking of Rubio, if there was ever an individual that possessed all the accoutrements that probably make a great leader, I think he needs a little bit more seasoning, obviously, because he's on the young side. He has the ability, sharp on his feet, but he's dragging around that albatross with a gang of 8 around his neck.
Yep.
And he can't seem to shake it because he still dances around with it. And I think that's what costing him with the GOP base, so that the candidate that I like, and I haven't made any endorsements because I've got a radio show and I've got to try to stay somewhere in the middle. But the candidates that I do like would be Donald Trump and Dr. Ben. Did I say Donald Trump? Back up. Ted Cruz and and Dr. Ben Carson.
Yeah.
Those are the two I think that exemplify the character traits I think would make a good leader. Donald's a good businessman. He really knows how to play media and play them well. But I'd be a little nervous to see him sitting in the driver's seat. But it remains to be seen. If he was to vet, Ken, and become the candidate of choice, I would hold my nose and vote for him. But I definitely have to hold my nose.
Yeah, hold your nose in a few other areas. I tell you, we're talking tonight with my very good friend Lonnie Poindexter, who is the host of Urban Family Talk's most successful show, LIONCHASER. You can hear it Monday through Friday from 11 to 1 on Urban Family Talk on AFA Radio. You are heard on 7 terrestrial stations, am I correct?
7 terrestrial radio stations across the continental U.S. and that goes far west is Boise, Idaho, which that top off the I forget the name of the station off the top of my head. That's so strong that it's picked up in Nevada, even Vegas, depending on a good clear night. And then we're obviously down south, Mississippi State, Georgia, Ohio, Michigan. I'm leaving out a few other places there. And then you can catch us on the internet, obviously, and we're global that way via IP. And our shows are always archived, so if you happen to miss a show, and we air at 11 Eastern daily, Monday through Friday, you can catch us in the archives and listen to it anytime that you want. We do re-airs at 10 p.m. every evening and also 10 a.m. Central every morning. That's how it works.
Now, I want to ask you this quick question. This is I received something from Ralph earlier tonight, and apparently New York is going to allow public urination.
What do you mean allow?
Well, it would no longer be illegal to publicly urinate. At least that's what they're working on. According to Crane's New York, the political insider, urinating and drinking in public would no longer be treated as crimes under a package of bills New York City Council will consider to ease enforcement of quality of life offenses that lawmakers say clog the courts and have been disproportionately enforced against minorities. So, because you're black and drinking a 40 ounce, you should be allowed to pee in public.
And you know what I think happened? I think the homeless community in New York has a strong lobbying group.
Oh, man.
It shows the depth and power that they have in the lobbying group, that they're able to push that legislation through, and they are to be commended that they now can toss back a 40 or a bit of Thunderbird and not worry about having to relieve themselves at the same time.
Oh, that's just, oh my goodness. Simply amazing. I'm putting that in our chat roll at SHR Media Live. And it is amazing that individuals have gotten this. Where is the morality in our country, sir? Where did it go?
I think it's probably trying to make its way to Costa Rica because that's where everybody's hightailing it to.
Costa Rica, the new America.
Well, you know what I think, Ken, is taking place is that, and you and I talk about this all the time, the church has still been lulled to sleep. They're really not stepping up. You see little rumblings here and there where they get worked up, but they're still asleep at the wheel. And in provide masturbation pods or something, so they
Yes.
can go and release stress. Yeah, only in New York City, and you heard. Remember Ted Cruz referring to the New York values?
Yes, yes, those are the New York values, and you bring up the symbolism of 9/11. That's not what he was talking about, and taken completely out of context. And yet people are running with that as to say that, wow, Donald Trump has a very sensitive heart. We should vote him president. I don't see it.
No, that's where we are today. Hey, I'm looking at your chat room here. I see all the regulars are there. I see Dave and Mary and some of the, let's see who else is in there.
Yeah, Deborah's in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I am very, very pleased with my my chat roll. And I might be updating it to do a different type of chat roll that, and I'll be seeing about that over the next couple of days. But I love the fact that you get all of these great people in this particular room providing their opinions and their thoughts, and they can handle their own. Want to ask you real quick in terms of DC. Not that you were concerned with DC at all. I mean, because you have your airplane that takes you in your private jet and your helicopter.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Apparently, we've had about 24 inches of snow. It's been recorded at Reagan at something like 18 inches. But the DC government says it's 24. And this is what the mayor says. She says that the streets are still dangerous, yet she's opening up DC government on time tomorrow. And the public schools in the district will open on Wednesday. Are you pleased with how things have been handled here in Washington?
Come on, man. Is that a trick question? Well, let me ask this question of you. Do you think you'll see our lawmakers back in session of law?
You probably will. You probably will. It gives them more time without having to have the influence of citizens who have to deal with the metro train system that isn't fully operational and they can't get downtown. You know, this has really been pathetic, and the leadership of it has been very pathetic. Muriel Bowser, if 2 for 2 when it comes to major snowstorms, she's failed on each and every one of them. And then if you know that the streets are dangerous, that the emergency routes are barely clean, that there's 2 feet of snow packed up on people's cars on the main street. If you know all of this and you know it's dangerous, why open? It just is unfathomable what this woman has done. We're getting news tonight, sir, and I want you to get your comment on that because of what you did last week. But a grand jury in Texas has indicted an activist behind the Planned Parenthood videos. In fact, a Houston grand jury investigating criminal allegations against Planned Parenthood stemming from a series of undercover videos on Monday instead indicted 2.
Enjoy a better view.
Shut up. It's 2 of the individuals, 2 of the anti-abortion activists who shot the footage. In a stunning turn of events, the grand jury declined to indict officials from the abortion provider and instead handed up felony charges of tampering with a government record against Center for Medical Progress founder David Dalyden and center employee Sandra Merritt. Dalyden was also charged with a misdemeanor count related to purchasing human organs. Amazing, isn't it?
It's truly amazing. It lets you know how bad a shape that we're in when someone uncovers the truth of the heinous practice of abortion and what they're doing, what I call the Dracula of America, and instead they shoot the messenger with a bazooka.
Wow.
You know, it's what we're in today. I know that the DA in California was trying to go after him. I guess they couldn't find enough trumped up evidence to go after him, but I guess they found someone in Texas that is willing to do this, so he's being indicted. You know, if we don't stand up, if the church doesn't take a stand like they did in San Antonio, or excuse me, in Houston, when that gay activist mayor went after the churches type of activism taking place, and it has to come from the church. And I'm talking about the pastors. I know the rank and file Americans out there, your listeners, those in the chat room, are willing and able. But here's what I've learned, and maybe you guys can correct me if I missed this. Every major move of God in America was birthed in and of the church. I'm talking about the founding of this nation. I'm talking about the Civil War between the states. I'm talking about the Civil Rights Movement. And today, the new battle line, the new Civil Rights Movement is the battle for religious freedoms. It's the church, and I mean the pastoral community, does not develop that black robe regiment type of activism. We're going to see more and more of this go down. God's leaders on earth are the church, the pastor, the pastoral community, which gives the charge to the congregation, which are the field troops, and then we march on things. That's why Dr. Martin Luther King was effective, and there's many luminaries that marched with him. We haven't seen that yet. We've got guys that are standing up like Bishop E.W. Jackson, Bishop Harry Jackson, and several others across this nation, but we need a lot more of that.
We do. We certainly do. And you have a network of pastors who work on these particular projects, like the March for Life, YG Nightstrom, forgive me. It's Nightstorm, forgive me. YG Nightstorm was up here from Atlanta. Got stuck here because of the storm. But he came all the way from Atlanta, Georgia to march. You had Daryl Graham there and a few others. You have individuals who hear the call who are outside of the church. Why are the ministers and pastors and priests and rabbis deaf to the call of God?
I think there's fear is a good part of it. I think another part of it is ignorance. And I think another part is not fully understanding what the call is as the pastoral community. I argue with a lot of pastors on social media, especially from the West Coast, or the left coast, I call it, that say that their mission is to preach the gospel. They don't understand that, wait a minute, in preaching the gospel, you must speak truth to power. That's what all the heavyweights in the Bible did, including Jesus Christ himself. And so until they figure that out and think it's somebody else's job, we're going to continue to have problems, brother. It's only going to escalate. The fact that you can have all that evidence pertaining to those poor little babies that die day in and day out, and the heinous way that they die, the fact that they market their parts and talk about, it just frustrates me when I think about it. Anyone that's seen those videos, going to be about 15 of them now, knows they do. In fact, they can be arrogant enough just to ignore it. It's the same way as Hillary's never brought up on charges, and we all know what she did with Benghazi and email gate and everything else, and the fact that we just can't seem to get any leeway with our legislators. Come November, we need to throw all the bums out and get people in there that will stand and be about speaking truth and be bold enough to do that. I had Casper Stockham on my show today. He's running for District 2 in Denver, Colorado. I said, why are you running? He said, because I'm just fed up with the foolishness that's taking place there. I want to do something. I know I can do something. That's what we need.
Yeah, and you know what? I pray that the revolution that Bernie is calling for and Trump is taking advantage of puts away emotion and puts together principles that understand that this is that last moment in American history that we can actually save the federally constitutional republic. And we can't, the old Southern phrase is pussyfoot around, thinking that my vote's not going to make a difference this time, or my candidate's not going to make a difference this time. You got to come out and you got to put the most conservative, most Christian, most constitutionalist, most capitalistic person in office. And I'll be making my endorsement once the primary is over, but I know a lot of people already know what I feel on that particular regard. I want to ask you very quickly, sir. Apparently, Obama is banning solitary confinement for juveniles in federal prisons. Is that necessarily something that we should be concerned about in terms of prison reform? In terms of the president being involved as well?
you know, brother, that's one that you've caught me, and I was not aware that that was something that he was doing, and this was focused on other issues. Educate me, and I'll give you my armchair response on you, brother.
All right, well, we'll hold off on that. We'll hold off on that until next week. But I'm concerned with a lot of things that Obama's doing in prison reform, and I don't think necessarily it's all great. Listen, how can people listen to your wonderful program and prepare themselves for the Spirit of the Lord in doing so?
Well, they can catch the show 11 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, and that's at urbanfamilytalk.com. That's urbanfamilytalk.com. And be sure and join the chat room when you do that by clicking chat and join the illustrious members of the chat room community. Sometimes you can find the exceptional one there in the chat room stirring things up. And we're Monday through Friday. It's a 2-hour show, and we go from 11 until 1 p.m. And it's just a great time, and I have subject matter experts in various areas and disciplines, and I'm looking to get some lawmakers and so forth on the show, given the election year that we're in. We have to do a little bit of tap dancing on that because we are a 501c3. But we're going to get that truth out, brother, and keep preaching it until we get the folks to acquiesce and understand that something needs to be done, just like what you're doing day in and day out.
Lonnie, I love you, and we really appreciate you coming on the air on Monday nights at 10 p.m. To give us the flavor of the atmosphere of our nation and to anoint us with your presence. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Have a wonderful evening.
Take care. God bless.
Listen, that was Lonnie Poindexter. If you're not listening, you should be listening. I don't know why you're not. All you need to do is go to Urban Family Talk and type in Lion Chasers. It is a huge show around the world, 6 million listeners and more. Definitely tune in. Listen, when we get back, I want to talk with you as to why, since the 1930s, communism and socialism has etched and inched and now has infected urban America. And this something for nothing and the chicks for free attitude is leading us to not only a dismal present, but may lead us to a most horrible and oppressive future. We'll be right back.
Telling me I shouldn't own guns because young black men are more likely to die from gun violence is asinine and insulting. You either think I'm too stupid to know that a vast majority of those deaths are drug and gang related, or you're a racist who thinks simply being black and having a gun makes me more prone to violence. This race baiting rhetoric is a disgusting attempt to take advantage of certain sensitivities. Yes, the inner city's young black men kill each other at an embarrassingly high rate, but instead of addressing the real issue, anti-gun politicians in the mainstream media would rather exploit the symptoms because there's no money in the cure. The vast majority of African Americans are good law-abiding people, and many of them own guns. Yet the media keeps trying to tell me that the majority of black people are anti-gun. So I guess that poll conducted by the Pew Research Center that found that 54% of black people believe guns protect you from being a crime victim was just the Illuminati. The image of black gun ownership has been hijacked and vilified by an anti-gun mainstream media, the same way they vilified the Cubans, the Italians, the Irish, and the Mexicans. They project and glorify this D-boy gangbang image as if African Americans are nothing more than that. This creates an insidious form of bigotry and stereotyping that only further divides this country along racial lines. Come to think of it, it's borderline genius. By blaming the gun, the corrupt media can advance their agenda and look like they give a damn about the inner city, then cue up racial opportunists like Al Sharpton who ignore the systemic degradation of the black family, drugs dumped into the community, an education system you couldn't pay the rest of America to put their kids in, and government programs like welfare that incentivize joblessness, further perpetuating generations of poverty. Instead, he and his dark and lovely perm will continue pointing the finger at the whites will point the finger back at him, and the moderator will keep asking racially inflammatory questions, and the mainstream media sits back and rakes in the dough with their modern-day minstrel show they call journalism. Think about it. The same liberal mainstream media that claims to want to end gun violence in the inner city is the same liberal-minded Hollywood production companies and major record labels that glorify and perpetuate the drug-dealing, gang-banging black man with a gun stereotype. If we really want to solve these problems, We have to understand that it will involve changing generations, not simply election cycle statistics. It will be uncomfortable. It'll challenge our current idea of meritocracy. We must be willing to get rid of our egos. We'll have to embrace personal accountability. We'll have to sacrifice political correctness for honest debate. If we're not ready to do any of these things, nothing will change other than the bank accounts of the mainstream media elites, and we'll watch this country implode on itself because it was easier to blame the gun instead of putting in hard work to address the real issue.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back to the most influential urban conservative talk show in America. We'll be back right after these messages as we enter our commercial-free Exceptional Conservative Show.
Right swipe. It's gonna be a right swipe. This man just shaved his chest hair into a heart. Oh, you stole mine. Right swipe.
Right swipe. Right swipe. It kind of looks like my sister. It does. But I know she's not.
He's cuddling a kitten. Oh my god, I want to eat their faces.
She's hot.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh.
That's a lollipop. Oh, that is not a lollipop. Left swipe.
Left swipe.
This must be some kind of joke. If you think you're my type, and I'm my type. If you're born in a cloud of smoke, I just left swipe. Bye bye. I just left swipe.
Left swipe that. Swipe.
You gotta swipe it left.
Yeah.
You gotta swipe it
Left
left.
swipe that. Swipe.
You gotta swipe it left. This is stuff I don't like, so I gotta
Left swipe that.
Look at you with your shirt off, flexing. You're buff, but you puff. Hashtag perplexing. Yeah, you worked out, you're in shape, okay. I like the six-pack abs, not the six-packs a day.
Came across a photo of this green-eyed hottie. Home 9, pretty face, tight waist, nice body. But I just couldn't overlook one small fact.
She smokes like an old man at a racetrack.
This must be some kind of joke. If you think you're my type, and I'm not type. If you're born in a cloud of smoke, I just left swipe. Bye bye. I just left swipe.
Left swipe that. Swipe.
You gotta swipe it left.
Yeah.
You gotta swipe it
Left
left.
swipe that. Swipe.
You gotta swipe it left. This is stuff I don't like, so I gotta
Left swipe that.
Mr. World Traveler, your trips look expensive. Sitting on a mountaintop looking all pensive. I was about to ask, how's the air up there? But based on this pic, I guess you don't really care.
Lots of chicks in the pic, not sure which one's you. Them cigarettes are taking y'all from 10s to 2s. And one thing's true about your whole crew, none of you cigarella's gonna be my boo.
Smoking with a tiger?
Left swipe that.
While you're on a hang glider?
Left swipe that.
Smoking while acting healthy.
Left swipe that.
Smoking all stealthy?
Left swipe that. Smoking with a duck face. Left swipe that.
At a monster truck race?
Left swipe that. Smoking at the prom. Left swipe that.
Even in a photo bomb?
He don't care. Left swipe that.
You gotta swipe it left.
Yeah.
You gotta swipe it
Left
left.
swipe that.
You gotta swipe it left. This is stuff I don't like, so I gotta
Left swipe that.
You gotta swipe it left.
Yeah.
Hashtag! I'll never remember you.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of the Dubois restaurant, and today I'm going to walk you through some of the meals that we prepare here. So we're making a pizza. We use French Italian sausage, and then we cook here and slice it up. Our pizza dough is in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and ingredient. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and the Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs as well as some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia and grits, our fish and grits on the menu. And our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused cheeseburgers. When we kick the spice up just a little bit with our infused. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chuck ham patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers, and we're gonna grill it to perfection. After I flip the burger, we add the sauce and let it cook on into the meat just a little bit. We're gonna add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger, spice it up a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, inspire, indulge, infuse. That's all you need to do. Infuse, baby. 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748. Telephone number 301-449-9000. That's Infuse, infuse.com, infuse.com. Make it your place to place your cold feet after a long day of moving snow. Order up. Get yourself a big burger with bacon. I want to thank my lovely chef, my gourmet chef, my beautiful wife, Mrs. Biggs, for producing such great bacon. I just thought it was a great way of opening up the show here. You know, I want to make this as friendly and as family oriented as possible, especially since we're delving into a subject matter of importance. This week is going to be a magazine week, and based on the magazine week, I merely want us to get a understanding of what we're up against, as well as to educate my download listeners exactly what they are getting involved with, and maybe it may be to their detriment. Part of the problem is that they've grown up in a school system that has demonized Booker T. Washington, ostracizing those who believe and support the vision of a Republican form of government, in which, if you wish, according to Morgan Freeman, if you wish to stop talking about racism in America, then stop calling me a black man and I'll stop calling you a white man. Well, simply put, Booker T. Washington was making that same claim back in the 1800s. He was making the statement that we got to get long past this racism thing, that there are people who have an appetite for using it to manipulate the press, even back then, to target individuals, personalize it, and cause those individuals great distress and horror, thus making it difficult for individuals to really express the fullness of their lives, financially and sovereignly, spiritually, and so on. William Edward Burghardt Dubois, W.E.B. Dubois, was an American sociologist, a historian, a civil rights activist, Pan-Africanist, but they don't put in there that he was a socialist and then a communist. The truth of the matter was, he was a socialist and then a communist. He signed up for the Communist Party and spent a great deal of time endorsing the likes of Lenin and Stalin and Mao, who collectively have killed over 100 million people in their existence. That's W.E.B. Dubois. But W.E.B. Dubois was considered a luminary because he was looking at a brand of government that was utopic, that presented the worst of America and the best of the rest of the world, and how we are to measure ourselves by the world standard rather than by a God standard. Yeah, I'll go that far as to say that. Racism was the main target of Dubois' polemics. He strongly protested against lynching, Jim Crow laws, and discrimination. And of course, if that were alone enough, his work at the Niagara movement and eventually the foundation of the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People would be significant in themselves. But that was not his interest. His interest was revolution. You see, the apex of the W.E.B. Dubois age is simply that we have an individual who unashamedly, boisterously, and boldly presents himself as a socialist candidate for the United States of America and is receiving great wave for doing so. A revolution, if you vote in a socialist, the revolution that must take place is you eliminate the Constitution because it is null and void, according to W.E.B. Dubois. I want to present for some and introduce to others. Some people would say the great. I will say merely W.E.B. Dubois. And I want you to listen to this. This will be the last words that you hear for tonight's show. Remember always that God bless America. Now it's time for America to bless God. W.E.B. Dubois, setting up our show for tomorrow on socialism and communism in urban America.
Ladies and gentlemen, socialism and the American Negro. Democracy has so disappeared in the United States that there are some subjects that cannot even be discussed. The essence of the democratic process is free discussion. There was a time when men were not allowed to talk about universal suffrage, or the education of women, or freedom for Negro slaves. Today, communism is the dirty word, and socialism is suspect. I often refer to my education in democracy. In the little New England town where I was born, we had a high school of about 25 pupils. I entered it in 1880 at the age of 12. As I attended the town meeting annually in the spring, there used regularly to appear one of the dirtiest old men I ever saw. He was fat and greasy, and every year he made a fierce attack on wasting his taxes on a high school. I was always furious. I wondered why the citizens sat silent and let him rant. But they did, and then quietly they voted the money for the high school. There I learned my lesson in democracy. Listen to the other side. In this state, and in our time, occurred one of the worst blows to the democratic process which our nation has suffered. Senator McCarthy succeeded in making America afraid to discuss socialism or to recognize communism as aught but a conspiracy. And this in the state of Robert La Follette. I knew La Follette and his valiant wife. I voted for him for president in 1924, and I saw him give his life fighting monopolized wealth and asking world peace. My own work at the time was trying to secure freedom and equality for American Negroes. For a quarter of a century, I edited a little monthly magazine, The Crisis. And despite opposition, I spoke plainly. I was criticized as being bitter, as seeking not simply political but social equality for Negroes, for favoring the teachings of Karl Marx, and for joining the Socialist Party. These accusations were true. But largely as a result of my work and the work of others, the Negro made progress toward equal citizenship. Progress, but not complete success. The collapse of the capitalist system after the First World War brought poverty, unemployment, and distress worse than America had ever seen. And then came a surge toward socialism called the New Deal. The nation relieved distress, built public works, helped agricultural trade, encouraged literature and art. It joined the Soviet Union in overthrowing Hitler, Mussolini, and Japan, and in forming the United Nations to avoid future war. With the death of Roosevelt came reaction. The United States not only stopped progress toward socialism, but ceased to discuss or study it, and came to regard the object of socialism and communism as a crime. Especially American Negroes, still as a mass poor and ignorant and sick, were given no opportunity to know the sort of progress the world was making to ameliorate the plight of the unfortunate working people the world over, who were in conditions similar to ours. American Negroes were not socialists. They did not know what communism was doing or trying to do, but they knew that Negro education must be better, that Negroes must have better opportunity to work and to receive a wage which would let them enjoy a decent standard of life. They were victims of disease and drifting into crime. To remedy this, they sought to pattern their life after successful Americans. They must work hard, save money, become employers and property owners and investors. This, they thought, would bring them recognition as American citizens equal to others. But America had changed. There was still a chance for some to rise and get rich, but the working classes were no longer generally able to buy land. Their wages did not amount to what they in reality earned, and those handicapped by race prejudice had small chance to overcome poverty and ignorance and disease. A class structure began to arise within the Negro group, which produced haves and have-nots, and tended to encourage more successful Negroes to join the forces of monopoly and exploitation and help victimize their own classes and any other lower classes that were possible. To remedy this situation, thinking Negroes still regarded their first step toward emancipation as being political power. They felt that their present plight was due to the fact that they had never become voting citizens of the country, and their first efforts were toward gaining the real right to vote. The Young Colored Men of 1905, of which I was one, emphasized this. This group meeting at Niagara Falls, Canada, in June 1905, demanded freedom of speech and criticism, manhood suffrage, the abolition of all distinctions based on race, recognition of basic principles of human brotherhood, and respect for the working man. They called themselves the Niagara Movement, and despite violent attack on all sides, met again the next year, 1906, at Harper's Ferry. There they said, "In the past year, the work of the Negro hater has flourished in the land. Step by step, the defenders of rights of American citizens have retreated. The work of stealing the black man's ballot has progressed, and 50 or more representatives of stolen votes still sit in the nation's capital. Never before in the modern age has a great and civilized folk threatened to adopt so cowardly a creed in the treatment of fellow citizens, born and bred on its soil. Stripped of verbose subterfuge and in its naked nastiness, the New American Creed says, fear to let black men even try to rise, lest they become the equals of whites. This in the land that professes to follow Jesus Christ. The blasphemy of such a course was only matched by its cowardice." This was the statement of 1906. The NAACP, organized in 1909, added to the program of the Niagara Movement the realization that the fight for Negro freedom could not be carried on by Negroes alone, but by a national movement which united Negroes and whites. They emphasized the role which prejudice played, a prejudice often unconscious but nevertheless effective. The NAACP made a nationwide fight against the horror of lynching and mob violence, and then more and more began to concentrate on the legal aspects of race discrimination, and the fact that the Negro was oppressed because the Constitution of the United States was not being enforced. This fight had unprecedented success and culminated in 1954 in the unanimous decision of the Supreme Court against segregation. But during all this struggle, we knew that something still was lacking. If we hark back to the cry of the French Revolution, liberty, equality, and brotherhood, it was clear that there was not and could not be liberty of individual action under the great industrial organization which was growing up in the world led by the United States. Production in industry and trade involved planning, and planning curtailed liberty. Moreover, our inequality as Negroes was a matter of fact. Negroes, with their ignorance and poverty and sickness, were distinctly below the average of those of their white neighbors who were educated and well-to-do and healthy. Finally, despite all propaganda, we saw democracy fading in America. Fewer and fewer people went to the polls. It was increasingly difficult to know for whom or for what one was voting, and the cost of elections rose to suspicious heights. The election in which Abraham Lincoln became President of the United States cost about $100,000. The election which made Dwight Eisenhower President probably cost more than $100 million. It's possible it cost twice that. Election expenses today include not only direct bribery, but indirect influences, monopoly, propaganda, and deception. Under these circumstances, the appeal of socialism to all Americans increased. But the answer to the doctrines of Karl Marx and the utopias of Fourier and others was that with human nature as it is, socialism simply would not work. To me, the obvious approach to socialism seemed consumers' cooperation. I tried to plan an organization among Negroes as consumers which would furnish employment, help savings, and bring unity of action. But it was soon evident, as many of my fellow workers warned me from the beginning, that individual action alone could not bring consumers' cooperation, that without the power of the government it would fail, and with government cooperation it was socialism. My own training in this thought came from my travel. My 2 years sojourn in Germany at the end of the 19th century, where I saw the rise of the Social Democratic Party. My repeated visits to England and France in the first decade of this century. My visits to the Soviet Union in 1926, 1936, and 1949. Then, as a peculiar aftermath of the 2 world wars and my advocacy of peace, my travel abroad was stopped from 1950 to 1958. In 1958, I was able to make a trip covering 11 months in which I visited Western Europe, Eastern Europe, including the Soviet Union, and the Republic of China. This trip completely transformed my thinking. I started on it believing that socialism was a possible form of government and economic organization and was being carried on successfully in Eastern Europe. That capitalism was also a successful form of organization, and while it might degenerate into fascism and the rule of wealth, nevertheless, it could, as had been proven by Franklin Roosevelt, become a progressive organization. I returned with completely changed ideas. I saw socialism as the most successful form of government today possible in the Soviet Union and in the Chinese Republic. I saw it evolving into communism to an astonishing, successful degree. On the other hand, I was frightened, and I am still alarmed at the degeneracy of capitalism and the possibility of it becoming a force so destructive that it cannot be endured. One of my first experiences was in England. I had in London a severe attack of intestinal disorder. A young physician summoned at midnight came and treated me. He made 6 or more visits within the next few days until he had me completely on my feet. When I asked for my bill, I was told that there was no charge, that his services were paid for by the British government. I reminded him that I was an American, and that in America we were repeatedly informed that socialized medicine in Great Britain was a failure. He smiled. The only cost of my illness was the medicine which he prescribed, and that was less than $5. On the other hand, I found that Great Britain, France, and Holland and Belgium were countries which for past centuries had built their comfort, their prosperity and civilization mainly on the free land and materials and cheap labor, partly furnished by their own working class, but mainly by colored people overseas whom they dominated by their colonial empires. In 1858, it was clear that the end of this colonialism was in sight. Already, most of the colonies of Holland had become independent. Britain had lost the Empire of India, and France was fighting in vain to hold North Africa. Yet, despite the fact that the colonial organization must end, these three great countries of Western Europe, and others like Italy, West Germany, and Portugal, were depending for their future life on materials which they underpriced in the world market, on stolen land, and on labor wretchedly underpaid. The political power to carry on this process depended upon the laboring class in Western Europe and America, and that laboring class was being bribed by political power and high wage, which came not so much out of the profits of the employers as out of the low wages of colored labor. I did not sense in Western Europe, and certainly I had not seen in America, any disposition so to improve the organization of work and the distribution of income as to make any essential change in the present capitalist system. On the other hand, I was astonished and encouraged by what I saw socialism doing. Not only did I see the results of socialized medicine in England and progress in housing, health, and workers' pensions in Sweden, Holland, Belgium, and France, but in the Soviet Union and East Germany, I saw a change of attitude toward the masses of people, not as the wards and beneficiaries of the rulers of the nation, but as the main body which itself owned the nation, and for which the nation existed, and as the reservoir out of which were being recruited those people who were making civilization. In China, it seemed to me that the process was going even further, and that human nature was being so changed that instead of self-seeking and class hatred, which so characterized the West, that there was coming a sense of partnership in a vast and growing nation, of willing cooperation, and of a widespread content and happiness, which I had not seen elsewhere in the world. All this was my deep and firm impression. I cannot prove it, particularly not to you who have been poisoned by lies and distortions for 10 years. After all, I saw these countries only partially and for brief visits, yet I am a traveler of some experience, and I know personally the trials of the poor and despised. I was given unusual opportunity for observation, and thus my conclusions are of some value. I saw the spread of socialism and communism. Today, more than half the people of the world live under a socialism which is growing toward communism. In my mind, there is no doubt but that the world of the 21st century will be overwhelmingly communistic.
Ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't have to be the United States of America. We'll be back tomorrow night with more on socialism and communism in urban America, and how this is the last election before the onslaught. A friend of mine once told me, and a very good friend of mine, Ken, live bravely. I never want you to die a coward. I promise you I always will. And as well, I always want you to remember, God bless America. Now it's time for America to bless God. See you tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, for more of the best in Urban Conservative Talk. The Exceptional Conservative Show, signing off from Washington, D.C., the nation's capital.